Hi guys, welcome back to the Roundtable. I'm Blaine Ryan, your chapter president.
And I'm Cameron Wilkinson, your chapter secretary. And today we're here to talk about drought, but before we do that, I'm going to introduce our chapter vice president, Caden.
Hi, my name is Caden Russell, the chapter vice president, and this is my first actual podcast episode.
Yeah, but before we get to our topic today, we're going to talk about some school events this past month. Our OCC team placed third at regionals, which is so exciting. The team is mostly 8th graders, so we're really impressed. Would you like to tell us?
So I'm finally getting to come do some podcast episodes because football is over with and I can dedicate my time to ag. This season went a lot better than last year's. We got some new coaches last year, Zach Cater, Ty Watkins, and Brian Hopkins. And last year didn't go as planned. We went 2-8, but this year we turned it around a little bit more, trying to build the program, and we went 5-5 ending the season. Our playoff appearance got cut, but you know, it is what it is. So I'm just glad that I could be the foundation to what Colgate used to be. So, and then we got an addition of Coach Barnes this year, and he's our running back coach and linebacker coach, and he's an awesome dude. And after ag, I will be going and doing golf. So,
yep, super exciting.
Yep.
Blaine?
Well, guys, show season kicked off last weekend with our first jackpot. Well, first two jackpots. One of them was our DJ, not our DJs, but the DJs meat sale show in McAllister. Jolie House got breed champion Dorset at that show. I placed first in my weather class, doe class, and fourth in my other weather class. And then Natalie Shaw had overall breed champion Hampshire weather at the T&D show that was hosted in Eufaula.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, perfect. Caden, would you like to introduce our
I would love to. If y'all are wondering who this cool cat on the end of the table is, this is Casey Russell, our extension agent for Cole and Atoka County now. Also dad. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Give us a little biography of how you kind of got into extension and what your job entitles.
Well, I appreciate being here. I graduated Oklahoma State University in December of 2005, animal science degree, and started in April of 2006 in Cole County as an agricultural educator. So almost 19 years in Cole County, and this month makes a year sharing Atoka and Cole County as ag educator, basically helping the ag producers in both of those counties to better their production and their operations on day-to-day issues they have.
What other businesses or things do you do within the community or that help agricultural-wise in the community and state?
We have an auction service that we help market retiring ag producers sometimes, their equipment and things like that we utilize and work with a lot of ag producers throughout the years. We've been doing that for 21 years. We also have some small businesses here that help support the community.
Along with, to add on to that a little bit, we own the laundromat in Colgate, and we help with banquets and stuff, washing tablecloths and stuff like that, and we love to give back as much as we can. Not
Absolutely.
To take away from your spotlight.
Absolutely.
And then we also auctioneer for the pie auction that our chapter hosts and other things along that line.
I don't really apply around here because there's not really a whole lot of row crops around this area, but what about crop values around the state? How has that been affected?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of row crop production in Cole or Atoka County, but the prices are pretty stable. They've had some rain in the areas that they do have row crop production. So like the mainstays in Oklahoma is wheat. Wheat's a large commodity in Oklahoma, and the prices they're pretty stable to higher even. It looks like the future prices for 2025 are going to be good for wheat. And this recent rain, I know we're going to talk about some drought, but we've had some recent rain, is going to help the wheat crop and help those producers out west in western Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Well, tying into that crop, I know feed prices, how about that? Like, since all the crops, I don't know really about the crop consistency, but...
Well, the crops drive feed prices.
Yeah.
If crops are short, feed's high. If there's a lot of crops, feed's usually cheaper. And we've seen feed prices, pretty steady here lately. 14%. We had a market report come out day before yesterday of 14% is averaging about $300 a ton right now, which is about what it was last year. So we don't see a super increase. 20% feeds running about $355, which is kind of about what it was last year. So we haven't seen a lot of increase in price. A little bit of price in the last 30 days just because producers in our area are having to start feed earlier because it has been so dry. But other than that, feed prices are pretty steady from the year before.
Yes, sir. I wasn't really sure how that would tie into that with all this lack of rain. I didn't know if that would affect the crops up in northern and western Oklahoma over how that would affect feed prices. Mm-hmm. Tying into this with the cattle prices, how are those being affected right now with people having to sell out due to the drought and stuff like that?
Well, cattle prices, we're in a unique situation and have been for about 2 years now. The cattle numbers are less than they've been ever in the history of cattle in the United States. We're at about 28 million breeding cows across the nation, which is the lowest number we've ever seen. So our inventories are lower. Fed cattle are running in that 87 million range, and that's the lowest number we've seen in feed yards since probably for the last 75 years. So 3 generations of people have not seen this low of cattle numbers. So prices are being held high. And one of the things we're noticing is the total cattle on feed is up about 2%. And what that tells us is that there's a lot of females going into that food chain. So we're not going to see a lot of expansion over the next several years because those females are going into the food chain. So cattle prices were probably going to stay high for the foreseeable future. For example, feeder cattle at Oklahoma City National Stockyards, you may or may not know this, but they set the feeder cattle price. Oklahoma's lucky enough to set the feeder cattle price every week for the nation, basically, because we have the largest feeder cattle sale in the nation. Those prices were up 2 to 4 this week, Monday, and the demand was strong, so that says that these guys got some rain and they're going to put some cattle on wheat. So prices are still good, and the future prices are about the same all the way through the spring of 26. So cattle prices and the future of cattle prices look strong probably through 27.
Yes, sir. What about the people that did sell out and are going to have to rebuy on that breeding heifer side? Are they going to have a break anytime soon? Is the market going to crash so they can actually buy back with a profit still? Or? Yeah,
we're not going to see breaks on prices that we can see in the foreseeable future. 2014 we had a drought. 2011 to 14 cattle numbers got low, and then 15, 16, 17 we saw a quick build back. The issue is now money's not as easy to get as it was. Interest rates are higher, banks are tightening up, so that build back is going to be slower, and that's why we're seeing these higher prices projected further down the road.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. You have a question to ask, Caden, or?
Not really. Well, I guess I could add something to that. My sheet's a little short over here. So, I know we've been talking about drought and stuff, and we have gotten a little bit of rain here recently. Has that changed any of your numbers or anybody's numbers any at all? I know it wasn't much rain, but it was a decent amount.
Well, it was... when we started discussing this, it was dry, and we always say in the extension world, plan a drought meeting and then you'll get a rain. So, so y'all broke the drought by having to come talk to the drought. It came at an odd time of the year. We're going from warm season growing season to cool season, and it will help the cool season growing season, the moisture that we've received. And we actually have the wettest November on record ever. Really? Dating back to 1836 was the first recorded rainfall in the state of Oklahoma. Wow. So, and it's only the 15th day of November, so we could see a lot more rain. So that will get the small grains through, get the ryegrass, get the wheat, that stuff for cattle. That will help. But guys are starting to have to feed now because July and August was so dry, and so it's affected the pastures and the warm season grasses. The drought did. We've had our our droughts have changed kind of, and from being so dry all summer to we call them flash droughts now. Happen kind of 1st of August through the middle of September, and they get dry really fast and really quick. So we're seeing the way that's changed. We get a lot of overgrazing during those times of the year.
Yes, sir. Tying to that overgrazing talk, how does that, like, what are the long-term and short-term effects of that overgrazing? Like, how will that, are they able to recover from overgrazing?
Yeah, they can. The biggest issue is that short-term, when it's overgrazed and we get that really, really short thatch height on our warm season grasses going into winter, and we happen to get and the ground's super dry and we get hard freezing cold weather, we can see some root kill because of that overgrazing, and then some runoff and get some erosion because it is so short. So that's a short-term effect. Long-term is it's easy to hide grass that's stressed when we have a lot of water. So in the spring when it rains a lot, you don't notice that your stand is damaged so much. And so fertility is very important. Your NP and K, or nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium is important. And one thing that OSU's been doing research-wise at some of the research stations is the use of fertilizer during dry times, which is hard to sell people because they don't want to put fertilizer out when it's not raining. But what we have seen is it takes about 20 inches of water to grow a ton of Bermuda grass without fertilizer. And then with fertilizer, it's about 75% less, about 4 to 6 inches of water to grow that. So when it is dry, we can utilize the rain. We do get a lot better if our fertility is correct.
How much money would it, like, on a paper would it cost to, like, replenish all of those lost minerals and nutrients, like the NP and K that you were talking about, like guesstimate? Yeah,
that's a hard number to throw out there, just because we do all the recommendations through our office soil sample. So we recommended that you sample your soil, and because your soil may not be the same as the person right across the fence from you. Theirs could be totally different, and so we recommend soil samples, but it can range in anywhere from $100 an acre to $300, $400, $500 an acre, depending on what all amendments you need in your soil.
Goodness.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about, like, what all the process of taking a soil sample would be?
Yes,
for people that don't know what that is.
So we have a core sampler that we loan out to people, and we tell them to take. We divide their property by soil types through the soil book or land soil survey online, and then they'll go out and sample their soil. They take 8 to 12 core samples, at least 6 inches deep, put it in a bucket, mix it all together, and then bring us a bag about the size of a quart Ziploc bag back to our office, and then we send it to our lab at OSU, and they run it through their systems up there to get the requirements that soil requires. And what that does is you take those core samples, and it shows you kind of a shotgun look at that piece of property, where it's 20 acres or 40 acres. It's not exact for each piece of that property, and but it kind of gives you the highs and lows over the average of that property.
Okay. Does your office, do you do anything else besides just soil samples, like water samples or hay samples, for example?
We do water, forage samples. We do testing for nitrates and prussic acid in Johnson grass, which is something that happens in any kind of Sudan grass in a drought or stress situation. Prussic acid is a instant killer to cattle. It's like cyanide gas, and when it gets stressed, as soon as they eat it, they usually find them dead. It's not a thing that you can protect from. So we do a lot of drought testing for nitrate and prussic acid. I actually talked to a gentleman this morning worried about prussic acid needing to graze some Johnson grass. Yeah. So that's other things we do, plus feeds and feeding and just a broad spectrum of things.
I don't know if we talked about it any earlier, but and I'll kind of sum it up here in a little bit. I just got a few more questions. So, like, you're talking about your drought meetings earlier. How often do y'all do those, and what all does that consist of? Is everybody welcome, or is it?
Oh, yeah. Everything we do is open to the public because we are a land grant university so the taxpayers fund that, and so all of our programs are open to anybody. Drought specific, we usually only do it when it's dry times, when it's a hot topic. People are worried about it. They should be worried about it before it gets dry, but nobody wants to talk about it until it is dry. So that's one of the things that we have been doing is called Forage Foundations, and it's a 7-week course that producers go through. We did our first one in Atoka County this spring. It's basically a 7-week course to make you a better forage producer, because ultimately growing grass makes beef, and that's the business we're in, is growing grass, and we put beef on there to harvest it, something we can sell. So and that gives them a little leg up against the drought situations going through that course earlier, so they're not panicking when it does get dry.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any more questions or stuff that we'd like to bring up?
Well, I think I have one final question. What can we expect to happen after it rains? Like, are we going to get that grass to come back up possibly, or are we going to have enough time between now and the dry and the cold spell's going to hit?
Yeah, we're probably not on the warm season grass. The days are getting shorter, the nights are getting cooler. Bermuda grass is green, but it's not growing. And from the weather outlook, it looks like that it'll probably get frosted out here in the next week, probably. But like I said, the cool season grasses, the rye grasses, and the wheat mainly that people plant for cattle in this area will respond from this moisture really well.
All right.
Anything else you would like to say?
I just appreciate y'all being here.
All right,
I think y'all are doing a good job.
Thank you for your time and everything you've done for us.
Absolutely.
All righty. Well,
Thank everybody for watching and supporting. Hopefully grow this podcast a little bit more. I enjoy doing it. I don't know
I
about
do
y'all,
too.
but yeah, that's about it. Thank y'all.
Thank you.